Alan, what are we driving today?
I've bought you something that's recently been released, relatively speaking. It is the Subaru Turbo Outback. Subaru have made much of their all-wheel driveness, their symmetrical all-wheel drive. Finally, I was able to get out of them exactly what that means. It just means that if you chop the car down the middle, the drive shafts either side are the same size, same length. They've increased the power, so the normal one is 138 kilowatts from the flat 4 naturally aspirated engine.
2.5 litre.
2.5 litre. This is a 2.4 with a turbo.
183 kilowatts and 350 newton metres of torque.
So it's still a decent amount of torque, but it's not huge considering they up the towing capacity as well. So
2,400 kilograms.
I don't know that I'd like to tow 2,400 with a CVT. We've got drive modes after a fashion, and it's also got X mode, which they've fiddled with.
Oh.
They've also fiddled with the suspension in the turbo model, so that's tuned slightly differently to the naturally aspirated car. David, what do you think of the colour?
I quite like the colour. I think the colour has a maturity about it. You don't?
I think it's a cross between baby poo and camo green. It's called autumn green. It's not my favourite, but it does have these little highlights to make it look like it's been done by a designer. One of the things I like about it, David, is that this looks nice and slim. It fits the size of the car. The front of the car doesn't look like it's trying to eat the rest of the car. I like this horizontal grille. Some of the ones, though, have like
the other cheaper models have a vertical
grille, which I don't think looks good. The turbo, as I said, comes in the sport and the touring. They've both got these adaptive LED lights with the little turny function, which you can turn on and off. I don't know why you'd want to turn it off.
Disconcerting?
Well, it's very handy. I mean, you only notice it at night, and you only notice it on really big sweeping bends, I've noticed. And some LED driving lights. The wheels have been redesigned. I actually really like these. I think they look really smart. There's a couple of accessories you can get for this too. You can get one of those camping pods for the top.
I wonder what that means in terms of rocking.
I think if you're going to do any of that nonsense, you probably should do it in the back of the car. Unload the back of the car, do it in the back, or do it in the back seat. This is essentially a Liberty wagon that is raised slightly. And you still get a nice high driving position. Everything, this back door is enormous. There's still plenty of room in the back. All of the turbo models are marked with XT. Electric tailgate, and a nicely usable rear.
It has 522 litres of space, but it looks bigger than that.
And when you put the seats down, it's similarly flat. Under the floor is a full-size spare, full-size alloy. Now, all Subarus had a proper physical spare, except for the ones that have hybrid.
Had to duck my head a bit. Oh, geez, that's good support and nice room.
It's a nice high seat. And David, you're looking over the seat in front.
Oh, yes.
What do you think of the gay lime stitching? That is really bright lime.
I like it. The back of cars can often be very sort of dark and dingy. I think that just adds a little bit of sparkle to it.
There's Napa leather trim. And of course, in the rear, you've got 2 vents, 2 USBs, and 2, the outboard seats that is, are heated. Now, the first thing I want to point out, David, is that you've only got what looks to be a 4-inch and a bit change LCD screen in front of the driver and the usual tacho and speed up. I think that's a little bit mean. The top one is around 55,000. What's the other one? It's 52 or 51 or something. I would expect a full LCD screen, but they've rejigged this 11.6-inch portrait style tablet, which I quite like. You've got
yeah,
so the bottom is all air conditioning, which they've fiddled with. You just have to touch the air conditioning button and that comes up with all of the air conditioning controls, including the outside air. There's Apple CarPlay, and David, it is wireless. These single touch buttons here, they'll get you home. That's your profile. I've also got this to recognize me when I come in. It welcomes me with a little "Hello, Alan" message. That's the phone that you can see, of which phones are paired. This is very well laid out. But all of the controls here, and this really annoys me, the brake hold won't stay on. You've got to go in every time to turn that on and turn the auto stop start off. The other assistance features, the emergency lane keep assist and so forth, but at least you can turn them all off. The same with all of these functions. And pre-collision braking, can I tell you, that did come in handy the other day. I was coming back from from my usual drive down south, and I had the auto cruise control on, and the traffic started to slow, but I'd lulled myself into a false sense of security. And so I had to jump on the brakes myself, and it finished up being an emergency stop. They've also expanded the voice control. So they've added a couple of extra functions into it, though I haven't been able to get the voice control to work for me. It just didn't work.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
no. The Subaru is watching you, of course, the whole time. There's a little, some little lights up here. They're watching you for your driver attention. And believe me, it gets narky if you don't keep your eyes on the road.
I know a person like that.
Really, what, me?
No.
But you can change those widgets. So you can put whatever widgets on there you like. I don't know how to do it. I couldn't. I searched through the menu trying to find out how to do things. And so I had to finish up resorting to the user guide.
Oh, okay.
Maybe switch to S just to give you some. Now that gives you a bit of boost going up the hill. That's what it feels like.
So the I is a more gradual increase of power with revs?
Correct. Yeah. It's supposed to be intelligent.
There, I was at constant throttle, fairly low speed. I changed to S. It kicked down some ratio.
Now that's the other thing, because of course this does have the dreaded CVT. I noticed that it does make the CVT act more like a torque converter automatic. Why not just put a torque converter automatic in? If they have to make this thing act like a normal auto, why not just put a normal auto in?
We should say, Alan, the performance is much better, obviously, with the turbocharged, but it does use more fuel and it needs 95 RON.
I was sitting on about 8.9, which I still think is quite a lot. But this is a big car, and it's the same problem that you and I have with all of these large cars with small engines, or smallish engines, and that is that you feel like you want to put your foot down to wring its neck.
They're rated at 9 litres per 100 average, as between urban and mixing urban and that. 12 in the urban area, and that's high, and about 7 point something for the rural. We're averaging 11.
We're averaging 11 litres per 100 kilometres at the moment, so 11 is pretty terrible. But 11, I would think, is the long-term average.
Okay. You think that might include a couple of variety of our colleagues who are lead foot?
I hope so, otherwise it's dreadful. But you do have a digital speedo, which I like. The buttons on the steering wheel, they've also been updated for the MY23 model. Not that you'd notice it, they look exactly the same to me. That steering wheel button over there is the lane departure button, but of course all of that only works if you've got the Smart Cruise Control active.
I said that it's a bit bland, but I've got to say the information there is quite clear. It also gives me the current speed limit, and I've just gone through a school zone on a weekend, so it's giving me both 60k and 40k.
Yeah, and I like that. You know, it is intelligent. So to round up, David, we've the power on the 183 kilowatt engine is adequate. Fuel consumption is high. Fuel consumption is high compared to what I'd expect for a car of this size. The look, I think, is lovely. I think it's got a lovely look from the outside, very smooth. The ride is great. And apparently on the launch for this, they did do a little bit of light off-roading using that X mode. We didn't use the X mode, and nor do we intend to.
I've got to say, overall, I think it's a very mature car. It's a car that's not getting bells and whistles for the sake of it. It's a good station wagon. I'd happily live with that if I could afford the petrol.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. It does feel sporty without being overly sporty, and I'd prefer a smooth ride, especially for long trips, and I'd be happy to take this on a long trip.
Oh, absolutely.
That's all this week from the turbocharged Outback by Subaru. Lovely car.
Oh, I love them as a good station wagon.
Yep, and it's comfortable, it's quiet, got all the stuff in it, it's got the eyesight, all of that fancy stuff.
And a bit of height.
Nice driving position, and it's just lovely. As always, David, hit like.
Or leave a comment.
And there to subscribe.